Hey there. Hello, how do you do? My name is Harry Wetzel. Thanks for coming. It's the 80s, darling. 1985. The weekend. And I'm at a party in Rye, New York. Where the hell is Rye, New York? Oh, well, Rye, New York is about a half hour or 40 minutes up the railroad line from Grand Central Station up by Nyack and Purchase and other such peculiarly named towns. So, what am I doing in Rye, New York? Well, there's a party there. And Keith, you remember Keith, my once roommate. We had to flee Astoria, Queens in somewhat of a hurry at one point in time, as you know. Yes, never talked about what happened to him. Well, Keith is a very enterprising young chap. Yes. And he's the sort of individual who will land on his feet no matter what happens to him, which is what happened to him. He landed on his feet. He had a job at Sherry Lehman for a while. He got another job at a law firm as a proofreader. And he was doing rather well, hustling around town, making things happen and moving and shaking. And he was always writing. He had a writing partner. He was always writing ditties, as you know. Yeah. He found a nice apartment up at Washington Heights. Where the hell is Washington Heights? It's uptown New York, up by the George Washington Bridge. Yes. It's by the George Washington Bridge, and which is around 185th Street. And that's Washington Heights. South of Washington, it's uptown Manhattan. Like I said, 185th Street. That's sort of way uptown. It's north of Morningside Heights, where George Carlin grew up. And he said, we called it White Harlem because it sounded bad. I'm paraphrasing the great George Carlin. Anyhow, and that's just above the Upper West Side. It's only 3 or 4 stops on the express train from my subway stop at 96th Street. You know, I live at 98th. And so, yeah, he just lives sort of in the neighborhood, and they were having parties up there all the time. So I would go up there and hang out in Hilarity Heights, as he called it. Yes. All right. So, one bright day, I got a call from Keith saying, listen, his sweetheart is a Nordic goddess, by the way, has a bunch of friends who live up in Rye, New York. And he's like, listen, Nordic goddess's girlfriends live up here in Rye, New York. They're going to SUNY Purchase, and they're having a big party. And there's going to be a lot of interesting people, and you should come on down. Come on up. It'll be a lot of fun. And I said, I'm in. A party, I'm in. And so it came to pass that the following Sunday, one Sunday afternoon, I went down to Grand Central Station, took a train up to Rye, New York, which is near Nyack and Purchase and other such peculiarly named towns. And a bunch of these roommates and friends of Nordic Goddess were attending SUNY Purchase, which is State University, New York, SUNY, SUNY, at Purchase. SUNY Purchase, they called it. Yes. And so they're all classmates of Nordic Goddesses up there. She's attending SUNY as well. Correct. So anyhow, they're having a big party, and what do? I get on the train, and I get up there, and I get up to Rye, New York, at around 5:30 or so. It's a beautiful, warm, sunny afternoon. It's summertime, so, the sun's not even setting till 9:30 or so these nights. Right. And Rye, New York is not exactly the country. No, but it isn't the city either. It's more like the suburbs, right? And there's a beautiful, cute little train station there, and behind the train station is a big bank, sort of a hill covered with trees and trees and trees and trees and many, 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 many pine trees. It's so beautiful. There's a big parking lot, and there's a little taxi stand over here with with one cab and one cab driver waiting just in case somebody needs a ride. And I come out of the train station. I got my book bag. He goes, buddy, you need a ride? I go, no, thanks. I'm waiting for my friends. So I go over here and I sit down and I'm looking around. I see a couple blocks down is where the town of Rye begins because, the train stations and bus stations are usually on the edge, the outskirts of town. So I sit down, I have a smoke, and car pulls in the parking lot. I go, oh, they're here already. Oh, it's a great big black car. That doesn't seem like them. And it pulls up and it keeps on going. It just stops right over here, just 10, 15 feet away, right in front of me in the cabbie, right over here. And back door opens and somebody sort of stumbles out and he's all sort of disheveled and he sort of brushes himself off and he shakes his head a little bit and the car door slams and the car takes off. Boom! And he says, hey! And he starts running after it. And then he slows down and he stops. He's not going to chase a car. That's silly. But he's standing there. Now he's still right over here, just a couple paces over. Then he turns around and he looks in all directions and he's got this really distraught look on his face. He looks around, he sees the cabbie. He goes over to the cabbie, he says, where am I? And the cabbie goes, what do you mean? And the disheveled man says, what city is this? And the cabbie said, buddy, you're in Rye, New York. And he said, oh, my friend, I have been had. And the cabbie and I just kind of go. And the guy turns around in his circle. He walks around, looks in all directions, and he looks back at the cab. He just goes over to the cab and he gets in the back seat and he shuts the door. And they're there for a minute or so, and then the cab drives away. And I go, ugh. That looked real. That was a real scene from a real life. This sounds like a sort of life-changing moment in somebody's life. And then suddenly another car comes in the parking lot, and it's Keith and Nordic Goddess coming in. What beautiful timing. And so I get my book bag and I get in the back of the car and I tell them exactly what I just witnessed. And all three of us went, whoa. I said, I know. I go, it might even be kind of funny if it wasn't so tragic. And we all said, I know. Whoa. So we drove into Rye and we went to the apartment where the party was going to take place. And it's one of these big apartments in an apartment building, a big apartment that you can have 5 roommates there. And apparently there were 5 roommates, 5 women who lived together, all going to SUNY Purchase. And they were all very interesting and collegiate and outside of the box type individuals. And we get there and it's still only 6 or so in the evening. It's still light and people are, some of the roommates and some of their friends are kind of meandering around, making the place nice, and there's snacks on all the tables, and they got a cooler with drinks in the fridge, in the kitchen, and and so we go in, we meet one of the roommates, and her name is Geraldine, and she is a fierce brunette. She is a proto-goth. Yes, we don't have goths in 1985 yet. No. We got punks and the holdovers and the leftovers, and some punks transitioning into the goth world, embracing the darker elements of it. Yes. And that's who Geraldine was. She was all dressed in black, and she had some dark green mixed in there. Fantastic. I was crushing on her right away. And so she says, and there's this long hallway with bedrooms on either side going down there. And she says, let me show you my room. All the rooms are opened up. It's 5 women live in this apartment, so it's exquisitely decorated. So we go up to the first room. You pass the first room. It looks kind of Victorian in there. That looks pretty cool. And then we go up to the next room. It's Geraldine's room, and she is indeed a goth. She's got all of her black clothing hanging up on the walls, on all of the walls in her room there. She's got a couple of skulls up there and a big oval mirror on the bureau and a portrait of Edgar Allan Poe on her bureau. I was crushing on her hard. She was so fierce and so beautiful looking. Yes, I know. And so then we meet one of the other roommates, and she was Lauren, and she was another proto goth. She was Geraldine was tall and imposing, and Lauren was petite and tiny, and she was a proto goth. She showed us her room. She was the next room down the hallway, and she had uh, all sorts of movie posters, but they were all in film noir. Anyhow, so we walk around the apartment, and it seems like it's pretty quiet. It does. It seems like it's pretty quiet. Wait a minute. Yes, yes, yes. Um, and so for an hour and a half or a couple of hours, it seems like this party is just going to be the six or seven of the roommates and a couple of their friends and me and Keaton Nor to God. It's just maybe 10 people there. It's a party. It's just a much more reserved than the blowout they thought they were going to have. I know. But then like 9 and 9:30, people just start to show up like a gong went off in the universe, and everybody thought it was a 9 o'clock party or something. But then suddenly, by 10 o'clock, the party is in full swing. The place is just, well, not jammed, but there's a lot of people in there. There's people on the dance floor. The music is playing. Each of the bedrooms has a different radio or cassette player. It's the 80s, darling. Yes, it is. If you ever if you ever had a cassette player, or if you still use cassettes today, comment. Yes. All right. And so there's all the different musics going on in the room, and all these people are there, and I'm going to go back and get another beer because the music is playing, and I want to get the nerve up to go out on the dance floor. But it's got to be the right conditions. Yes. So I go back up to the kitchen, and there is another beauty, this dark-haired beauty, and she's sitting with all of her friends, and I overhear her name is Lisetta. Oh, and she's got this dark hair and these dark eyes, and she's sitting there talking to her friends, and I'm like, ugh. I'm gonna try and maybe ask her to dance later on. I know, and so the party is in full swing, and I have another drink, and I get another look at Lisetta, and I say, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to try it. I sort of meander over there, and she's in the middle of a conversation with a bunch of her friends. And you don't want to just barge in and say, hi, can I interrupt and take, one of your friends away so that I could, do the broken puppet in front of her on the dance floor. You don't want to do that. Right. So I'm just standing there, trying to will myself invisible and not pretend that I'm not eavesdropping. Anyhow, a break does come up in the conversation. I see an opening. So I say, hey there. Hi. Hi. She says, oh, hi. Hi. You say, ooh. Very shy, She's like, hi. I say, would you like to dance? I said, dance, mademoiselle. And she said, oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I don't, I'm not very, I don't dance. And right at that moment, the Talking Heads, Once in a Lifetime comes on. Ba-doon, doon, doon. Ba-doon, doon, doon. And I go, uh-oh. And I go, and it's playing in the background now. And I go, are you sure? And she says, she actually folded her arms. She says, no, thank you. No, no. And I'm like, another time then. And I turned around and I just leapt onto the dance floor, and I'm dancing around. I'm doing the broken puppet. It's Talking Heads, so I'm doing the broken robot. Yes. And then there's all these fantastic, beautiful young people on the dance floor. There's all these young people. They're all so beautiful, and they don't even know it. Don't even realize it. Well, some of them do. Some of them think they're more beautiful than they actually are. However, there's something about the bloom of youth that enhances the beauty of everyone that it graces. And all these 20-somethings, all these college-age individuals look so beautiful. And I see over here, there's Geraldine and Lauren, who I know, dancing in a circle with another girl. All three beauties. And there's fierce, tall Geraldine, and then there's short, petite Lauren, and then there's another sort of medium-sized girl, and she's got short, blonde, sort of punked out hair. Oh, and I see her, and she's got a beautiful face, and I'm like, oh, I want to dance with them. Oh, and so I'm doing the broken puppet, and I do the turnaround. Right. And I sort of doing the turnaround. I get over by them, and I do the turnaround right in front of them. Ha! And they go, ah! And they opened up their circle. And so I'm like dancing around. Now I step in the circle, and now the three of them is now the four of us. Oh, it's so exciting! And I'm dancing, and I look at the girl with the short blonde punked out hair, and she meets my eyes at one point, and I'm doing a sort of broken robot, and she does a little bit of her version of the broken robot, and I'm like, oh no. Now I'm crushing on her too. Oh no. What are we going to do? Anyhow, the song eventually ends. And and there's a little lull between songs. And I say, I say, ladies, it has been so wonderful. You women are fantastic. And Geraldine says, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And she says, Harry, you know Lauren, but have you met Lisbeth? And Lisbeth turns to me and says, hello, I'm Lisbeth. And we shake hands, and I'm like, oh, did I detect an accent? And now the next song starts right away. Sugar to tug. It's Come Together by the Beatles. And so we start dancing immediately to that. You know what I mean? And I'm doing the swoon, and I'm doing a little bit of the broken robot and stuff. And Lisbeth is dancing along with me. Well, now I've moved on. I'm on full on crush mode. I've forgotten all about Geraldine. And I'm looking at Lisbeth with her accent. I've got to talk to her and hear that voice, that creamy voice with that dialect of hers. Oh, and so the song ends, and Geraldine, thank heaven, says, let's go get a drink. And so we walk off the dance floor, which is the dining room with the table cleared over to the side. And we go over into the kitchen. And there in the kitchen is Keith and Nordic Goddess. And they're having an intense but lively discussion about Richard Avedon's photographs and whether the color photographs of his are as creative or as good as the black and white ones. Right. That's the discussion they're having. This is the kind of discussion that happens only at a party like this. This can only happen in a college town. And by that, I don't mean that there's a trash can filled with every booze in the world. No, I'm talking that this is the kind of party where they drink beer and smoke reefer, and they have these discussions about Sartre or the 1696 window tax in England, or what's the difference between surrealism and Dada. Yes, that's the kind of party this is. It's just fantastic. Anyhow, so we get a beer, and Lisbeth and I clink beers together. I know. And we walk out in the room, and I say, did I detect an accent? She says, oh yeah, I'm from Germany. And I'm like, oh. I said, well, willkommen zu Amerika. She said, danke, thank you. I've been here about a month and a half. And I said, well, and you still like it? It's okay. We're treating you well. She says, oh yeah, I like it very much here. And I'm like, fantastic. And so we're walking around, and she says, oh, let's go into Ashley's room. It was the first room, the Victorian room. And so we sort of go in there, and there's a beautiful big bed with a big headboard. There's a couple of eggheads over in the corner. The radio is playing, and a couple of eggheads are having a discussion, no fooling, about the 1696 window tax in England. I know. So we come in, and we're talking. We sit down on there's a little Victorian love seat there, and we sit down on that, and the two eggheads sort of said, "Hey, how you doing?" And they just kind of meandered out of the room. Now she and I are alone together, and I say, "So, tell me, what part of Germany are you from?" And she says, I'm from Munich. And I go, oh, and I knew something, so I had to tell her. I said, my family is from Wetzlar. And she said, Now here's the deal. Wetzlar is a little town in Germany. Yes. Just had to make sure it was Germany. A little town in Germany near Munich. Wetzlar is. Now, Wetzlar is a town from whence came my ancestors, the Wetzels, hundreds of years ago. Yes. And so I knew that Wetzlar was this little town outside of Munich. And so I said, my family is from Wetzlar. And she said, I've been to Wetzlar. And I said, yes, really? She says, yes. She says, oh, it's beautiful there. I said, really? She says, oh, yes. And the people are so friendly. I said, oh, I love hearing that. She says, yes, everybody is so nice, and they laugh and they drink and they wear Lederhosen. And I said, I go, they laugh and they drink and they wear the Lederhosen, but they laugh and they drink. You tell it sounds kind of like they're a bunch of drunks. She said, well, it's Europe, everybody drinks. And I'm like, well, yeah, well, fair enough. And I said, but no, it doesn't sound like they laugh and they drink and that's all. And I think they're the bumpkins, the hicks, the rubes of Germany. She said, no. Everyone there is so very friendly. And I look at her and I say, may I kiss you? And she looks at me sort of surprised. And she's got kind of a little smile on. And then right at that very moment, we hear bam, 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 bam on the bedroom wall over here. And it sounds for all the world like a headboard banging against the wall, if you know what I mean. It sounds like two people are sharing physical intimacy and having a somewhat raucous time. Bam, bam, bam. And we just stop and look at each other. We're sort of surprised. And right at that moment, the radio in the room started to play Tonight's the Night by Rod Stewart. Tonight's the night, gonna be all right. And I go, oh. And I go, is this an omen? Or what? And then we hear bam, 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 bam. Oh! And we heard it. Whoa! And we just started laughing. And I go, no, dummy. It's not an omen. It's just the radio. And it got quiet in the other room, and the song was softly playing, and we looked at each other. And we just started to sort of lean into each other. And I'll tell you what happened next time. Thank you for coming and joining me on this journey. I look forward to seeing you next time. And if you ever, want to subscribe or share it out, please do. Make a comment, anything you like. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you, those who do comment. I'm a big fan of you guys. All right, I look forward to seeing you next time. All right.